Thank you very much, Jen and the whole HASH team for having me. My name is Thomas Nägele. I'm from Liechtenstein. For those of you who might not know where Liechtenstein is, we are in the heart of Europe, bordering Switzerland and Austria. We're a very small country. And I really love to hear what Commissioner Pham just shared, what are the challenges and what are the legal challenges, specifically when it comes to regulation. And I'm happy to share what happened in Europe and where was the starting point there. And it's also good to see, and I really like the approach of Commissioner Pham to travel the world to see where are good regulatory approaches, because I think we should learn from each other. Good. So in Europe, we do have the market in crypto assets regulation. The abbreviation is MiCAR, Market in Crypto Assets Regulation. It's not in force yet. It's going to be enforced next year. And it's a dedicated crypto regulation for the European single market. And I'm going to show you what does that mean. The European Commission started that journey like years ahead. We had last year a European Commissioner here sharing the story, what was the journey to the MiCA regulation. And it was published as the Digital Finance Package by the European Commission in September 2020. And what did they publish? They did not only publish MiCAR. They also published a pilot regime for market infrastructures for securities, basically. They also published DORA to tackle the cybersecurity risks. So what the European Commission did is, we actually said what we already have for the securities world and all of the regulation, MiFID, all what we already have is gonna be applicable when we have tokenized securities. But what the Commission did is they analyzed the framework and the technology and identified areas where we should actually change our regulation. And I think that's the good approach. That's the right approach, right? So when the Commission looked at that, for primary issuance of securities, of digital securities, we had the prospectus regime that's still in force. And we did, in Europe, we had security offerings in August 2018 already. That was the first I'm aware of. We did that out of Liechtenstein. And passported it, and we'll learn more about passporting afterwards. So we do have regulation in place there. And then Europe did exactly what Commissioner Pham said. Okay, there is something which is different, and we should treat it different. And this different thing is crypto assets. And that's why Europe came up with MiCAR. What are the ideas behind it? For sure, one of the big drivers was Facebook's Libra. When Libra came, Europe said, okay, how should we react on such a very powerful potential stablecoin with a lot of users? And one of the solutions would have been just to ban it. Again, coming back to Commissioner Pham. But the Commission said, no, we should not ban it. That's not the idea. That's not the right approach. So they actually started to work on MiCA and finalize MiCA and said, we are going to have very strict rules for stablecoins, but we are going to allow stablecoins as well. And for issuance, there's a requirement to publish a white paper. What are the 4 objectives of MiCAR? The first is legal certainty. So an entrepreneur should know what he has to do, which rules he has to follow to be able to build his business, get licensed. The European Commission wanted to support innovation because it's such a powerful technology or a group of technologies. So we wanted to promote and to support innovation with a right legal framework, with a proper legal framework. Protections of consumers and investors, for sure. We wanted and we will protect consumers and investors with this regulation because we have clear rules, and market integrity, financial stability, and operation of payment systems. What is the impact? I already shared that this is going to be applicable in Europe and in the specifically in the European Union and the EEA area. And we do have already regulation in place, for example, in Germany, in France, specific crypto regulation. Malta has specific crypto regulation. What is the impact of this regulatory, of this new regulation, MiCAR, in Europe? This will for sure replace the local regulations when it comes to what is covered with MiCAR. So the scope of MiCAR is very important to see what impact that might have to the local, like to the individual jurisdiction in Europe. It's a supervisory regulation, which means it's talking about licenses and supervision. It's not talking about tokenization of assets, the legal framework we heard before, the real world applications. And there are good examples, allow me to say that. For example, I am from Liechtenstein, so Liechtenstein has a bespoke regime for tokenization of assets. That's not going to be changed because of MiCA, because that stays in force and valid. And we do have these transitional measures. One is an interesting one. You have a simplified procedure for these licensed entities which already have a license before MiCA comes into force. That is the reason why Europe now gets a lot of attention from global crypto companies because they can already prepare for what is coming next in Europe. Let's now look at two specific things, and I wanted to tell you a little bit more about the categories of crypto assets we have. And then the second part is we'll have a short look at the service providers. Yeah, okay. So what we already heard today, again, is you should differentiate between crypto assets and security token or securities which are issued in the form of token with the use of DLT technologies. And as I already told you, it's not only MiCAR or MiCAR, it's also the DLT MTF pilot regime and what the European Commission did for security tokens. So what they basically did is they said, okay, we will have a catch-all definition of what is a crypto asset, and then we will define what are asset reference token, as the name says, something which derives the value from another asset, an asset reference token. And then if something is of a significant importance, there's another category for that. And we will impose really strict rules for asset reference tokens. So you can issue a stable coin in Europe if you follow these rules. Then you have e-money token. E-money, in very, very simple terms, is if you have a crypto asset which is directly linked to a fiat currency. So one token is €1, US dollar, whatever fiat currency. And you have to claim to get the fiat value back. That's e-money. And with the e-money regime, which was not really good for what we have with the use of DLT, we had to change the e-money token regime, and that's why the European Commission came up with a new e-money regime. And then we have the utility tokens, which have a very low level of regulation. And on the right side, you see what Europe did with their understanding of financial instruments. We basically said it's possible to use DLT to issue and to trade digital securities. So they amended the definition of what a digital security is and just added that sentence, including such instruments issued by the means of distributed ledger technologies. Coming to the crypto asset service providers. I will not read through all of these. It's a supervisory law where you can get actually licenses. So you can get a crypto asset service license for example, providing custody, operating a trading platform, or exchange of crypto assets for funds, or exchange for crypto assets for other crypto assets. So you can get a license. And that's already a good starting point, because you know which rules you have to follow. You are supervised by your local national competent authority. This provides investor protection as well as consumer protection. But what is the real added value of having one framework in Europe? And that's the passporting regime. So what is passporting? Passporting basically means that you have one regulation which is applicable in the European single market of the 27 member states of the European Union, plus the EEA countries, which is 450 million consumers and 23 million businesses. And that is the next step. So you have now one license, so you get your license in Germany, and then you can access all of Europe. And I think that is the real added value for the companies. And let's have a short use case. What would that mean? For example, if you look at the secondary markets, you would have to identify if it's the securities world. Then you have the existing financial market regulation with an exemption for the CSDR. That's the DLT-MTF pilot regime. Then you have the new area based on MiCAR, where you can actually get a license and then you can passport that. And then you have the decentralized world, taxes, where set up properly, you can really argue that it's not subject to regulation. Okay, finishing up with the timeline, and that's a very short one, because the timeline is very short. It started in September 2020. We have officially published the version in June this year, and we're going to have the implementation of Title 3 and 4, which is for the stablecoins and asset reference tokens, mid of next year, and end of next year, MiCAR is fully applicable in Europe. Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much. And I'm happy to take questions now or later, as you wish.
Thank you. Perfect. So we will go through 7 jurisdictions, and I know a lot of you have questions, but hopefully we can save that after the event.